Yeah, I mean, I get that. Especially knowing what we know about, well, his quirkiness at times. Let's keep going and let's talk about some other news and notes in the company, specifically regarding Ric Flair. Now, you may remember Flair has his retirement match and swan song with WWE as far as being an in-ring performer at WrestleMania just a few months prior to this down in Florida, and had quite the send-off the night before at the Hall of Fame, and of course the day after WrestleMania on Raw. And now he's looking to take some dates outside of WWE, and that's allowed. Meltzer would write that he's going to appear at the NWA show at the Phillips Arena to be inducted in the NWA Wrestling Hall of Fame, along with the Midnight Express, Tommy Rich, Nikita Koloff, and the Iron Sheik. And Cornette is going to be giving a speech here as part of this. This goes down on June 6th. And the letter, of course, making the offer is, well, it's attractive. Let's run through it. The letter said Flair's guarantee is $10,000 plus a hotel suite and limo transportation to the event. Flair will pay his own trans to the event and bring merchandise bags with t-shirts, autographed photos, NWA swag, and sponsor merchandise. He'll appear at all the tapings, coming out after the third match on the show and doing an interview talking about the city in which the show is being taped. And the way the deal works is they're encouraging promoters to charge $100 for the meet and greet. So that would generate $20,000 with 200 people, which gives them a nearly $10,000 profit on the deal. And Flair appearing at that show will also help them sell some tickets. And a company has proposed a 30-date deal with Flair, which is going to mean he's essentially guaranteed $300,000. So he's making deals with the NWA to not only appear at their Hall of Fame, but to hit some different shows across America. And this is all happening while he's under contract with WWE for somewhere in the market of $500,000 a year, just as an ambassador. And seemingly just as fast as the deal came together, it falls apart. Of course, it is a Vince McMahon call, not wanting his wrestler to give credibility to a Hall of Fame other than his own. And he doesn't want one of his biggest stars appearing at some other shows, signing autographs. We know that ultimately this is going to be the beginning of the end of the WWE Ric Flair relationship for a little while. Were you surprised that this thing ever got off the ground? Did Rick ask permission or get a green light, or how did this get sideways so fast?
I don't know, man. I was surprised that to answer your question, yes, I was surprised that it took off so fast. And it was a little bit, knowing Vince's mindset on other promotions, that I was surprised that it was even being discussed, because I had assumed that Rick had sat down with Vince and said, hey, I got this opportunity. I can make some good money, blah, blah, blah. And Vince said, oh, go ahead, pal. Go ahead, pal. No problem. You've earned it. So, but apparently that conversation never took place. So I don't know who Rick talked to. And maybe he assumed that he was eligible to do this thing. And maybe he was theoretically, but then of course, if he's still on paper to WWE, Vince McMahon's got control.
Right.
So that's kind of where that was. I don't know where Rick got the thought. I know Bob Trovich is an attorney. He was the NWA guy for years and years. One of the players down there in Georgia back in the day. So it may have been that. Maybe Trovich had an idea. Well, now that Rick's retired from WWE, maybe he's eligible to do other things. And if he can do other things as we think he can, this will be a neat idea. Plus, he'll make, as you said, $300,000 for this project. So I think there was a lot of assumption going on, assuming it was going to be okay. But then when Vince thought about it, like he does so many times, he's going to see that good. We talk about plausible deniability. Why did you do that? I'm protecting my brand. That's what he would say. I'm protecting my brand. So here's my problem with that. Protect your brand by growing your brand. Don't protect your brand by stymieing the growth of other companies, because it's not good for the overall wrestling business. And whether you like it or not, Mr. Sports Entertainment, you are still in the wrestling business.
I do want to, let's just get right into it, because you were pretty vocal, and it's reported on by Meltzer. Jim Ross noted that announcers can be included in the draft, and that's not something he's happy about. Quote, "I can't speak for the King, but I'm personally not interested in leaving Monday Night Raw. I hope that I didn't just jinx myself. Working regularly on another broadcast would feel strange at this stage of my game. Ross is believed to be financially secure, as he has had a lot of big years when he worked full time as head of talent relations and still earns a solid income doing Raw, working as a consultant and doing payroll. It's been clear for nearly a decade that he was more there because they've been able to find a replacement who fully understands the role in a youth-oriented television business, with Michael Cole, Jonathan Coachman, Joey Styles, Mike Goldberg, and most recently, Mike Adamle, all either hired or put in the position to be his replacement." So we're going to talk about this a lot later, but in hindsight, when you look back and read that you wrote that, God dang, don't you think that I mean, Vince McMahon at that point almost took it like a fucking personal challenge to do it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Conrad. You're very perceptive, and that's exactly right. It was my mistake to write that, because inadvertently I challenged him. I have just always been so open with my fan base, and because I'm still a fan, so we have a lot in common with me and these folks called wrestling fans. And I love them, but God dang, man, I messed up. I should not have ever. I didn't perceive that his ego was so goddamn fragile that he would take this as a personal challenge, because he and I had never had one conversation about me moving from Raw to SmackDown. Not one. But I wrote that, I guess maybe with my fingers crossed, that, well, this can't happen to me.
Right.
And I shouldn't have been as honest and upfront, sharing my feelings and thoughts with the people that read my blog at that time. And I screwed up in hindsight. I didn't set out to screw up. I didn't say, okay, I'm going to write this so I can see if I can piss Vince off.
Sure.
But it did, apparently. And I wish I had not done it.
Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little more later. The final Sunday Night Heat show was taped on May 26th in Denver. Sunday Night Heat was an interesting concept. I mean, I guess at this point it's been around for 10 years or so. Are there any interesting Sunday Night Heat memories that you can recall?
None. It was another show. It became a run together where it didn't have a lot of individuality or exclusivity. So it became another WWE branded show. Same camera angles, same graphic fonts, same or similar. Nothing really stood out on those shows to me, other than it aired on Sunday night and it was a weekly show and all that good stuff. But no, nothing. It was unspectacular. Although there were times we had some good matches, I'm sure. Can't remember any of them right now. But to me, it was just another cookie cutter wrestling show, because at that time, WWE was producing so much television that they didn't have time to venture too far outside the framework of their established formats. Therefore, things kept looking the same. And I never think that's a good idea. You can't look the same. People want new. We talked about this earlier. Fans want new. So give them some new every now and then. And that can be in formats, lighting, graphics, music, pyro. But really it comes back down to, are you going to give them some good matches? At least one good match in that 1 hour show. And sometimes we had it, sometimes we delivered, sometimes we didn't. And sometimes you got to remember too, we talked about the AEW show Saturday night in Daytona, where these young kids are going to get their opportunity. Once the bell starts, it's up to them, man. They can't blame another soul in the world with themselves if they don't do great. Because it's all coming back to my point. It's all coming back to bell to bell. And nothing bell to bell strikes me as something spectacular on Sunday Night Heat.
Well, something that was spectacular is that you guys are getting your first major network coverage in Australia in years, going to the middle of June. And you're going to start having a Sunday 3 p.m. slot on Channel 9, which is the #1 station in the country. And the company had never been on the country's main station. They'd been on Channel 10 during the 80s and for a few weeks in 2000, but ultimately it was canceled. But way back when, Jim Barnett's World Championship Wrestling promotion in the 60s and 70s, during the golden age of wrestling, it aired here on Channel 9, as did the US version of WCW in the 90s. How big of a deal is this for you to get a major clearance like this in Australia?
Huge. It helped put another brick in the foundation of the company's global growth. Australia's still untapped in a lot of ways. You and I should go down there sometime and do some shows. I'm sure we'd do well, and the fans would enjoy it. It's got a long tradition. And, when Mr. Barnett had his thing going there a couple of years, oh, my God, I printed money. And he did print money. He had a great eye for bringing in top talents. You look at that roster of talents that Barnett brought in for Channel 10, or Channel 10, or Channel 9, I'm sorry. He had an uncanny eye for talent. And I talked to Jerry Briscoe and I talked to Jack Briscoe, who both had some time there, and talking about how cool it was. They flew to all the shots, and they, great treatment, stayed in hotels that were really, really nice, full time. And it was just great. They loved it. The guys loved that booking. It was just so far from home. You couldn't get back home other when your tour was over, in all reality. So it was big, man. It was big. And I think, again, it's still an untapped market, and it should be cultivated more by somebody.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.